Hey, this is 6 Volt and Von Doom's lab. This is for Hook of the Reaper version 1.2.6. So before I start getting into things, I actually have good news actually kind of great news. So yesterday I had my big meeting with the oncologist to get the biopsy results and kind of get the plan of, what chemotherapy or something with treatment we're going through. But I found out that the biopsy had no findings of any lymphoma. So that was kind of shocking, but it's actually really good news. It's kind of rare, but I guess it can happen. So if people don't know the story about, was about August, September of 2025. So about 6 months ago, I kind of just doing maintenance work on my computer, and I got really sick for like 3 months. I was out. I couldn't really do anything. I was just sleeping or really bad fatigue and had pain. And I had I didn't have a fever, but my temperature was a lot higher. I usually run like 97 and a half, but my temperature was like 99 to 99.8 all the time, but didn't hit the 100.4 fever level. And also, if I tried to do anything, I was just sweating all the time, and it was my heat. I could like heat up rooms or how much heat I was getting off. So I never had any night sweats, but when I first had lymphoma back in 2007, I never had night sweats either. I had my lymph node swell up, but I didn't have a lymph node swell up. So finally went to the doctor. They did a PET scan, and it showed up with like 5 lymph nodes being active, which is usually, a good sign of cancer. So then I got a bone marrow biopsy, and then I had the surgery to take the lymph nodes out. Then I went and met the doctor. So we were pretty much sure because the one lymphoma I had was considered incurable because it's so slow growing. There is some chance that you can be cured from it if it's like faster growing. And I kind of had a not as fast growing. It was fast, but not as fast where it kind of got into the cure kind of range. But and also the time frame of it coming back was kind of lining up with all the new data because it's been about 18 years. So that's why we all thought it was kind of back. It's kind of everything lined up. I just didn't have like a large lymph node, but it seemed like it was kind of like more the early stages maybe. But now with the biopsy, it's like, yeah, there are no findings of lymphoma. So now they're thinking, well, there is some viruses that can do it. Like one of them's like mono and some other things. So I'm getting tested for all that. Then they want me to do another PET scan coming up here in a couple weeks, 2 weeks, just to make sure nothing is growing. So there is kind of some probability they could have taken the wrong lymph nodes during surgery. Probably since they took 2 of them, the chances of that is pretty low because they had 2. But it also can still just be miss those, and they might need more, so I might have to go get more lymph nodes taken out. But that's a really good sign if it does just a virus bug causing, these signs of kind of like cancerous signs. And it's kind of really good. That means it hasn't come back. But so, yeah, my odds, yeah, it went pretty good. So now I was pretty sure, like very high chance I had cancer. Now it's kind of sinking pretty low. So it's pretty great news. So finally, I was happy. I think I had finally got a good night's sleep for a very long time because I was not sleeping good, and that would made me tired all the time. But so okay, so it's finally some good news for once. Okay, so let's move into the bugs. So I had the ServoStik problem. So people know if you're using Windows 10, 11, which is the Qt6 version, that will crash when you do add light controller if you have servo sticks plugged in. And this one, I didn't know, I was kind of grasping almost at straws. It's just I thought it was definitely a hardware problem because I saw like this problem, in the light gun stuff where the USB was getting messed up, it would crash. But it turned out Adam actually really helped me out because he said, "Oh, the older Windows version, Qt5, worked." And I was like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "So now it's kind of like a software bug." And also, I just went through the Pack Drive SDK for the 1.2.5 release, so I kind of knew where all the code was because I knew pretty much the whole SDK because I went through it all. So I went through it and I took out the ServoStik from the USB code. So I kind of just like hacked it out, trying to move some things around so it kind of worked all normally and all that. And that fixed the problem. So the two guys, they're having it. I think it was HeadRush69 and Kovachiro. Sorry, I'm horrible at names. Kovachiro. These guys were the ones who filed the bug, and this guy, sorry, I can't. Kovachiro was, he did tons of testing and testing everything out. So these guys did a lot of stuff. So especially this guy, he did tons of testing. So thanks to him, and thanks to the other guy, and thanks to Adam, that I finally got it figured out and fixed in the Pack Drive 64 DLL, which will be included in this release. And also I took out the USB button things too. So with the ServoStik and the USB buttons things taken out, now it's only the kind of stuff that has LED stuff or light controller stuff. So that has the Pack Drive, the UHID, the Blue HID, the Pack 64 LED, the Nano LED, and the Pack Ultimate I/O. So that's really good news. So that got fixed out. So now got that bug taken care of. So when I was updating for regular lights, I did find some bugs in the code for it. So the regular lights didn't take that long. It took probably an hour to put the code in. So it was just a lot of copying from the RGB stuff. So one thing I found out was there was a random number bug for the random flash commands. So this is for random flash RGB and random flash 2C RGB, which is two colors RGB. So it wasn't using the correct random number for all the groups. So if you had multiple groups, it could use the first random number, first group's random number. So it was kind of a bad bug because if you had a large group the first time, then a small group, then the random number could be out of bounds of the array because it's using the large group array random number onto the small group. So that if that number was too big, it could be out of bounds, and which could crash Hook of the Reaper because usually they don't like it when you go out of bounds and stuff like that. Usually hackers do that a lot of times. So it usually stops codes and crashes if you go out of bounds. So that was a pretty bad one. So that was if you're using these two commands with multiple groups, that could happen. So I fixed that, and this reversion, I tested it out for RGB and regular lights. So I put a big group on, then I put smaller groups on to test it out. So it seems like all of it's working now. Then there was another bug with the sequence. These are where it goes sequences. This is another multi-group kind of problem, but it just accelerated the sequence count. So if you had multiple groups, it might have skipped some LEDs when it was lighting up the sequences. So I did have checks to make sure nothing went out of bounds and stopped. So that was good. So it didn't write anything out of bounds. It just made it kind of go accelerated. So it just skipped LEDs if you had multiple groups. So I fixed this in 1.2.6 again. So that was one. It's pretty easy. So now the random number thing is all working for all the groups and all that. So if you had one group, now it's only one random number. If you had three groups, you get three random numbers based on the groups and all that. Okay. Then there's a smaller one. So for the follower random RGB was being blocked if a command was running. So I did say the follower commands are not being blocked if a command is running, but I went back and I saw the random RGB one was. The follower RGB isn't, but the random one was. So I took out that code and put it so it's fixed for 1.2.6. So those are kind of, so hopefully I flushed out a lot of the bugs in the commands. So, and the last one is, so DJ Glitch caught this. So in the other versions of Point Blank 2 on MAME, use different output signals. So the main file for Point Blank 2 used player 1-2 gun recoil for recoil, but the other versions use just recoil 0 and recoil 1. Then for, also it changed for the start lamp. So the main one used player 1-2 start lamp, but the other versions use LED 0 and 1. So thanks a lot to DJ Glitch. He found this and sent it to me and sent me the new files. And I've updated them already. So it's updated in the release and already updated on it. And if you come down here, I did put a note here and Point Blank 2 pretty much going over the same info I just went over. And also there was another Point Blank file that I was missing, so I put in. So that should now be all covered. So those should be fixed and working for the DefaultLG files. So again, thanks to DJ Glitch for that. So pretty much for this one, it's just one enhancement. It was just added in commands for regular lights. So there's 8 commands. So there's one less than RGB. So they have 5 flash. So all the flash RGB commands became regular commands. There was 2 sequence of commands that became regular commands, but instead of 2 followers, there's just 1 follower. So that's because right now I'm using intensity instead of color. So instead of putting a color in, you put the intensity, which is from 0 to 255, but I recommend doing the smallest is probably 80, because I think it kind of doesn't turn on if you kind of go below 80 or somewhere around that area. So just wanted to tell people. So I updated the light games file to add all the commands in there. So pretty much like everything will be like the same, but you'll have like regular instead of RGB at the end. Then so the only other, I was going to ask for feedback for the regular lights. When I was doing it, I kind of saw they might be just for the flash. I can kind of see them come on. I don't know if this is kind of like the not working as fast, or I think what has happened because I only have RGB lights, RBG lights. So I think I see the lights coming on, because it's easy because they're all different colors and it comes white, so things come on. So I might be seeing that come on, but I just want to make sure if it's going fast enough. So I just want feedback if for regular lights, if they're turning on too slow, right? So if you do like a flash, can you see it? Are you seeing all the lights come on at once? Or are you kind of seeing them all kind of go on, one by one? Not kind of like a sequence, but the sequence is a little different because then you're turning on, you're going 1, delay 1. But I think I'm just seeing the RGB kind of stuff because I have RGB lights. I think it's from that. So I don't think it's regular lights should be fine with that. Then the only other command is this one. Instead of 2 colors, I have 2I because it's 2 intensity. But if I do change, because if it is too slow, I would go to states then. So what I would do is have, when you make the group, you put in a default intensity. So I would make all the lights in that group to that intensity, then I turn the states off. Then when I want to flash them, I can turn the states on, and turning the states on is a lot faster than setting the intensity. So if things are going too slow, I would switch it to states. So then I would get rid of the intensity stuff and just use states. And then, so you wouldn't, the commands wouldn't use intensity anymore. You just use that default intensity for that group. Then the only different one would be like the 2 intensity, then I can take like 50% from it. So that's good. But yeah, so it's all in. Like I said, the commands are pretty much a carbon copy of the RGB commands. You have all the commands except for the follower random one, because the follower random one is you're just going to have random intensity, right? So I didn't think that would really work too well. So that's why I took it out. So that's why there's one less command, which is the follower command. Okay, so I just wanted to follow up on the roadmap. So right now I feel like I fleshed out a lot of the bugs with the Pack Drive SDK. And that was in 1.2.5. Then this one, I think I got a lot of the things flushed out with the command bugs in this release. So as up here, I was talking about the random number, the sequence, the follower. Hopefully, I got all the bugs kind of like all the major ones flushed out. And that puts me in a great spot or a good spot for the next release of 1.2.7. And that's when I fixed the one command at one time kind of thing, which people will have like one light controller, or they can't do kind of 2 players the best right now. You kind of can do it, but not, 1 player is good. People that have 2 controllers can do 2 players, but this is where, so next release I will fix that. So I have architected it in my head already. I just need to feel good to code it out, because when I'm not feeling good, I don't want to code because I make a lot of mistakes, of course. So I usually only code when I'm feeling good. I try to do like architecting in my head when I'm just not feeling good sitting around, and when I'm feeling good, I code. And the one thing, so I figure out how I'm going to check the pins, as I talked about. So instead of doing like trying to check groups and all that, I'm just going to have an array of all the pins. So if it's like, let's say you have the pack 64 LED, so you have 64 pins. So what I'll do is I'll have 8 bytes, an array. So you have 8 bytes. So a byte is, 0 through 7, so 8 bits. So then you have 8 of those, that will give you 64. And each bit represents if that pin is being used or not. And how I'm planning to do that is a thing what's called bit banging or bit shifting. It's kind of an electrical engineer thing. And of course, I'm sure when people hear bit banging or bit shifting, it's probably sounds like it belongs on a website that ends in hub, but no, it's a normal electrical engineer coding thing. So I kind of wanted just to go a little over how it works. So let's do example, like I have pin 38. So from that I minus 1, because when you see it, it's 1 through 64, but when you go to the computer, everything starts at 0. So you go 0 to 63. Or like the array, you have 8 bits, 8 bytes in an array, it's 0 to 7, right? So we take 1 off of it, so then it becomes 37. Okay, so to find what array position or group of where it's in, you want to divide it by 8, an unsigned int. So it always rounds down. So if you do 37 divided by 8, you get 4. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's the array position would be 4. But the bad thing when you do that divide, it probably take 14 to 30 clocks in an x86 processor, maybe more, probably going up. Since it's an unsigned int, I kind of cut it down a little. I think if you go up, you can go up to like 40 for like bigger numbers. Since we're using only bytes, it might be smaller. But yeah, that's 14 to 30. But if you start doing bit banging or bit shifting, you can have a different way. So if you shift the data to the right, so if you just move the data, to the right 1 bit, you actually will divide it by 2. And if you shift it by 2, you'll divide by 4. And if you shift it by 3, you'll divide by 8. Right? So just shifting it by 3 will give me the number that I want. And the good thing about that, shifting only takes 1 clock cycle. So yeah, usually it kind of comes from the old days where people used to bit shift and bit bang all the time. So that's why shifting is usually always 1 clock cycle, which is really good. So you go from 14 to 30 clock cycles from doing 1 divide down to 1. So if you look here, you go 37 and you shift it by 3, right? And those 3 bits you're shifting, you want to go into a new variable. You don't want to lose those. And you put that what's called in a variable of pin position, right? So right now we'll just do 37 with the group or the array position. So right here is what 37 looks like, right? Then after it shifts, this is the binary. So that's hex 0, then 4. So now we have 4, which is exactly what we have up here. So now we have our array position just by shifting it three positions. But then with the pin position, since we moved that 1, 0, 1, it's going to be at the top of it. So we would have to shift it 5. And then it will shift it like this. Then it should look like that. And that's, here's a 4, so 1 more is going to be 5, right? So that's actually the pin position. So we know that's the 5th, because you start at 0, so you go 0 to 7. So it's actually kind of the 6th bit, but it's in the 5th position from 0 to 7. So with that, we did 2 shifts, which is 2 clocks. But to get the pin position over here, you would have to go 4 times 8, then go 37 minus 4 times 8, then that will give you the 5. But you're doing multiplication there too. But that's kind of when people say, a good assembly code is a lot faster than compile code. And it's because of kind of like stuff like this. If you really know kind of how to shift things and do things, you can do stuff really, really fast. So in this whole thing, we did like 2 shifts, which is 2 clock cycles, where, like I said, in multiplication to get the pin position, you have to go 37 minus 4 times 8. You're thinking probably 40 to 50 clock cycles with that. So that's it. So that's a good kind of quick thing on bit banging. But that's it. Thanks. Bye.